InvadR is the lone wooden roller coaster at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Virginia. In fact, it's the only wooden roller coaster that has ever operated at the park. This Great Coasters International wood coaster is often overshadowed by the park's bigger steel roller coasters and many of GCI's taller coasters, but I think InvadR is an extremely underrated coaster. In this review, I will talk about why InvadR should get more praise. In terms of stats, InvadR is among the smallest coasters GCI has ever built. Designed by Jeff Pike, InvadR stands just 60 feet or 18 meters tall, reaches a top speed of just 48 miles per hour or 77 kilometers per hour, and has just 2,118 feet or 646 meters of track. It is clear this ride was targeted more towards families than thrill seekers. While InvadR is the first wood coaster at the Williamsburg Park, it was not the first wood coaster in the chain. Busch Gardens Tampa debuted Gwazi in 1999. Also built by Great Coasters International, this was a larger dueling coaster with several crossovers and near misses. However, the coaster tore itself apart and became horrifically rough, which is why it ceased operation in 2015 and was eventually converted into Iron Gwazi for the 2021 season. And I find it encouraging that Gwazi didn't deter Busch Gardens and SeaWorld from working with GCI again in the future. Gwazi was one of the earliest creations from GCI. It opened before the company had developed their Millennium Flyer trains that reduced wear on the track. These were added for the 2011 season on Gwazi, but a decade of abuse from the PTC trains took a toll on Gwazi's structure. The Millennium Flyers alone could not fix Gwazi, but those trains could be repurposed. Gwazi had 4 Millennium Flyer trains, 2 on each side. 2 were repurposed for Texas Stingray at SeaWorld San Antonio in 2020, and 2 were reused for InvadR, but they were heavily modified. Only the frames of Gwazi's trains were used on InvadR, and the trains were shortened from 12 rows to 8 rows, due to the coaster's more compact nature. The fact InvadR would start with Millennium Flyers and also feature a less aggressive and less twisted layout would help the longevity of InvadR. The coaster is still running just as smoothly today as it did after it opened. And that's a good thing, since these Millennium Flyers have the hard foam seats as opposed to the more cushioned seats on their older coasters. The other learning GCI got from Gwazi was to use a steel support structure over a wooden one. Gwazi's wooden support structure is rumored to have not been in the best of shape. The hot and humid Florida weather was not kind to it, so it's no surprise InvadR got a steel support structure, especially since Virginia summers can feel just as oppressively hot and humid as those in Florida. InvadR is located in the New France section of Busch Gardens, and the ride is themed to Vikings. The ride has a fantastic entrance with a giant catapult, and the station has some flags and shields to tie in with the Viking theme. But there is no other theming in the ride's queue line or along the course. And the latter is darn near impossible to see from the midway. It is set quite a ways back from the pathways. All you can see as you approach the coaster is the ride's lift hill. You can get a distant but obstructed view of the coaster's layout from the bridge between Germany and New France, but your best views will come on the train, which passes right through the middle of InvadR's layout. It took me a few tries to get lucky with the timing, but I finally caught a train cycling through the layout while aboard the park's train in 2021. InvadR is usually tied with Verbolten for the longest queue line in the park. It's not uncommon to see a good chunk of its queue line filled on most days. I deliberately ride this coaster first thing in the morning or in the evening. Because of its location in the very back of the park, it's possible to get a few rides on this coaster before most guests make their way back there. And this is a coaster that I find has little variation depending upon the time of day, which is really rare for a wooden coaster. While the coaster doesn't seem to run any faster at night, I do recommend riding it at night for 2 reasons. 1, the line often dies down, and the coaster is usually a walk-on. 2, the ride's secluded location results in some great night rides. There is very little light along the course. In the middle of the day, the ride usually has a decent-sized wait, since it's among the park's lowest capacity coasters, seating a maximum of 16 riders per cycle. The park is usually good about running 2 trains in InvadR, and the coaster often has very fast dispatches, which is aided by the fact that this coaster has no seatbelts. You just have the familiar T-bar found in all the Millennium Flyer trains. These restraints will continuously lower throughout the ride, so I do recommend holding onto the lap bar after it's checked if you want to maximize your airtime. This wood coaster also has a slightly lower than usual 46-inch height requirement, which helps some younger guests ride a year earlier. In terms of seat selection, I do prefer the front row. The airtime is more consistent start to finish, but the back is good too, mostly for the first drop. InvadR begins with a small curved dip out of the station, and then you round a super tight, unbanked turn. This turn gives some decent laterals that are stronger towards the front. You then head up the 60-foot tall lift hill. The initial ascent is extremely slow since you need to wait for the prior train to park itself in the station, but you do pick up some speed at the top. You then dip down a small drop, gain in more speed than you'd expect, and fly around another unbanked turn. This one delivers another dose of weak laterals. Then comes the ride's first drop, which is the best part of the ride. For one, this is a rare straight drop for GCI. Usually, they provide twisting drops that focus more on laterals than airtime. But InvadR's drop delivers some great sustained floater airtime the whole way down if you're in the back. The drop also has some interesting visuals. The first half of the drop takes place in a tunnel. I don't believe the tunnel is for noise, but I love how it hides a surprising head chopper with a steel beam once you emerge into the daylight. It really sneaks up on you. The drop dips down to a tunneled pit, which is why it's 14 feet larger than the ride's lift hill. The rapid transition from light to dark again is striking. You then rise up into a sharp turnaround. Up front, you get a very strong pop of airtime. The entrance is so abrupt that even back row riders get a weak pop of airtime. You then twist to the right down a gradual banked drop that sadly offers no airtime or laterals. Then comes a camelback with a double down on the other side. Front row riders get decent sustained floater airtime through the first part of the double down. Back row riders only get a weak pop of airtime on the first part of that double down. The second part of the double down is quite sharp, so it delivers a flagector pop up front and a very strong pop of airtime in the back row. You then slightly turn to the right and fly over another camelback. This one delivers decent sustained floater airtime up front, but only a weak pop towards the back. InvadR then breaks up the airtime with some laterals. The high-speed low turn delivers some weak sustained laterals, and then you sharply turn in the opposite direction, getting a very strong and abrupt jolt of laterals. It's rare to get a rapid transition like that on a wood coaster. The train then rises up into an L-shaped turnaround. Front row riders will get another good pop of airtime entering this element, and back row riders get their own strong pop of airtime on the descent. That is followed by a bunny hill over the ride's first drop, a tiny speed hill, and a sharp rise into the final turn. All three elements deliver good pops of airtime up front, but weaker pops of airtime in the back. InvadR then dives down the hillside, really building back up the ride's speed, while also laying on some decent sustained laterals that build throughout the element. The train then sharply rises into the brake run, giving one last weak pop of airtime for front row riders before coming to a stop. So what would I rate InvadR? I would give this coaster an 8 out of 10. This assumes you're in the front row, and since you are allowed to wait for that seat 99% of the time, I do think it's fair to judge the coaster by its best row. This is among the most consistent GCIs in terms of how it rides day to day and hour to hour. While InvadR is among the slowest and shortest GCIs in the stats department, this coaster is very fast paced. If you're up front, every single hill delivers airtime or laterals. You don't have a second to catch your breath up there. Towards the back, the airtime isn't quite as strong, but all of the elements do offer some sort of airtime. Where InvadR does suffer though is if you're towards the middle of the train. Usually I'm able to wait for the front or back, but I was assigned the middle row twice, and the airtime was extremely weak there. Just keep that in mind. I know most people consider InvadR to be a lower tier GCI, but I think this one is in the upper half for me. The coaster focuses on the airtime, not the filler, and it's very re-rideable, and it complements Busch Gardens steel coasters quite nicely. So those are my thoughts on InvadR, the GCI wooden roller coaster at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Have you ridden this coaster? How do you think it compares to GCI's other coasters? Do you think it's underrated like me? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.